Hi everyone and welcome back to the Leah Moses Entrepreneur Podcast. And today's topic is all about helping you generate that business idea, right? The things that you need to consider when you're coming up with a business to bring to market or to bring to, your audience. And so, quite simply, I want to jump straight into the facts. I strongly believe that if you're bringing a business out, you need to have something that's relevant, right? Now, yes, you can follow your passions, and of course, if it is you have you could see your passion being, utilized by your audience, by the market. Of course, no problem, bring it out there. But there are a lot of people, and these are who I'm really addressing right now, who may not really know what business to bring. They know they want to start a business, but they don't really know what to bring. They don't know what could be unique because you're bombarded on the internet with so many different things about what types of businesses to start. You can go on YouTube and search up, the top 20, top 10, top 100 business ideas for 2020 or whatever. As the year comes down, it would say to 2021, top business ideas and so on, right? And while some things in the list might be important, we need to remember in the Caribbean and especially in Trinidad and Tobago, my home country, we need to remember that our culture is different, right? So, we don't really have, let's say, for example, one of the ideas that come up a lot on the internet is something like dog walking. Now, yes, that might win, but not for the majority, because we don't utilize that. So we don't have that culture widely whereby, somebody offers to walk your dog. As a matter of fact, we are accustomed, with running from the dogs because our dogs, we don't even have, big businesses that train your dogs or anybody who's teaching about dog training. But I mean, if you're a pioneer, as I'm speaking this right now, I'm thinking, somebody could probably come up with something like that, an academy whereby dog owners can train these dogs and so on. And that could probably be a new thing you could usher in. But I want you to bear in mind when you're now starting in business, looking for ideas or how to formulate your business idea from the internet or from an international perspective, you might run into some problems due to the culture difference. And so I will give what I will say is my practical view, or what I would see as the most relevant things to consider as a person of the Caribbean and especially of Trinidad and Tobago. Not sure where you're tuning in from, but of course you could leave your comments and let me know where you're listening to this podcast from. And so, first thing that comes to mind, if I don't know, I don't have a passion, I don't have any particular idea, I will ask myself, what do Trinis, because I'm speaking to my country, so you can speak to your country, or you can do it from, according to if you're international, probably your state, probably your province. You can have it as wide as possible or as narrow as possible when you're doing this consideration. So I will usually sit and think, okay, what do Trini people like? What do they patronize the most, right? This is so if I don't have an idea, I didn't, think about pioneering something, but we'll get to that pioneering aspect, in the other half of this. So I will sit down and think what people here like, right? And then I would then probably narrow it down if I know I'm targeting, millennials, or I'm targeting senior citizens, or I'm targeting teens, or whatever your business might be. I will then wonder, okay, what does this age bracket of people enjoy doing? What do they buy the most based on your knowledge? And as a matter of fact, there's nothing wrong in asking others what they think as well. You don't have to tell anybody your idea. Some people are very, private with that, and you don't have to share that with everyone, but you can simply walk up to your mom, your dad, your uncle, your cousin and say, especially if the person is of the audience that you're hoping to target, and ask, what do you spend your money most on? Or I had often asked, if there was something that could change your way of life, something that would make your life easier, make your life comfortable, what would it be? I mean, even go direct and say, what business Trinidad lacks that you would enjoy if it was here? And you'd be surprised. There was a time I looked around and I realized, okay, Trinidad and Tobago, we don't have a bowling alley, like a big bowling alley, the way the international market may have. And so, somebody might realize that, and according to your access to capital or your resourcefulness, right? That's for another time. But according to your capital base or your resourcefulness, you might decide, hey, I think that if I create a big bowling alley in my country, people will patronize it because it's something new and it's a form of recreation, and maybe the people, in the country generally love to support, recreational things or sporting activities, right? So I will ask those questions, and I will ask other people in and out of the target audience that I'm hoping to serve, right? Notice I didn't mention about asking yourself how much money the particular venture will make, because it's not about how much money you can make, but it's about how much value you can provide. And providing value could be anything, as simple as value provision could be as simple as making somebody laugh. So don't feel like providing value means something highfalutin, something out the box or anything like that. It could be as simple as that. There are people who, as we see in the entertainment world, people pay a lot of money to go to comedy shows. We have comedy fests here, it's a couple $100 a lot of times if you miss the early bird, right? And so providing value could be having somebody feel comfortable, having somebody feel loved, making people laugh. If you go up the scale, providing value could be saving somebody money, saving people time. All these things are value provision. So it's not about focusing on what brings the money, because as soon as you bring the value, the money follows. That's a principle that's been taught. That's a wealth principle. Provide the value and your wealth comes. Or there's another quote that says, we rise by lifting others. So if you give, the more people you give what they want, you get what you want in return. And so that is something you need to always keep embedded in your mind when it comes to, how to move forward and provide value and set up your business the correct way, or get your idea from the right place, right? And so I will think about that. I will ask those questions, as I said, and then I will go a step further. If I see, all right, we all know Trini people love to eat. We like food, right? And so somebody might say, hey, Trini people like to eat. Food business must sell. That's how we speak, right? Food must sell. We'll say that. Some people might go a step further and they will say, clothes must sell. And all these things are correct. But I will take it a step further when you realize what your target audience likes or what they will spend their money on, right? Of course, provided that your product is good, right? But after I figure that out, I will go a step further now, not just to say, okay, yes, food sells, but then, there's always that need to be different. So whether you find something that is common or something that is not common, but it's something that the audience, the target audience or the country or whatever, your region would like and support, I will go down to now find out how could I be different with it. So even if it's food, right? And I went through this process already, of thinking, okay, yes, I know food sells, but I don't just want to come out with something usual. Now, there's nothing wrong with coming out with something common. There are a lot of people, as we speak, possibly coming out there with doubles. Doubles is quite common. It's simple. I mean, we have some people, though, performing what I'm now getting into, which is about how can you be different. So we know locally there's a guy that sells chicken doubles, goat doubles. So you make the doubles, but you put meat in it. So you differentiate yourself from the rest, right? Which gives you that edge, that gives you that selling point, that gives you that answer the question, why would these people want to come to me? Why would they try me, right? And so I will ask myself, okay, yes, this is what the audience wants, and this is what they will support, but then I want to see how I can put my own unique touch to it. What will be the difference maker, right? And so that could be so many things, because I'm just speaking broad. So that's just something I want you to start to train your brain to think about when you're thinking of a business idea, or when you're wondering what could I do or what business could I start, right? be sure to find that way to be different, right? We don't want mass copies. We want customized people in society providing and producing businesses, right? So you can find a way to do your process either quicker, do it better, do it cheaper, do it more unique. If it's food, sometimes it might just be putting a little twisted. Let's consider, look at the fried chicken industry right here in Trinidad and Tobago. We have all these brands, different fried chicken outlets, from the small shop in your community, in your neighborhood, the lady who will fry chicken and fries, her taste is different, to the bigger establishments, right? So you have to figure out what you can do to be different, and that difference is what will attract people. People like unique things, especially to try it out. And so once people decide to try it out, then all there is to ensure now is just that your product is good, right? It's made well, or you can't offer substandard things. You draw the market in, and then what happens? Your business will fall, right? So you just make sure your product is good. Once you know your product is good, and it's something that the audience, your target audience, will support and will like, right? For those who are doing common things, you just find your way to make it different. And so these are, the pretty basic. These are the basic things in which I will consider, before I bring out an idea. And just to, to sum it all up, right, while those are the listings, I will also say, when you're looking to start a business, really think about creating something that people need, right? That and not just what they need, but something that would last on, right? Evergreen businesses, they call them. Reason being, if you're just jumping on business ideas because it's popular now, then your business will be short-lived. And soon after that business goes away, you have to now look for a new business idea to move along. So let's just think, as I'm right here thinking, as I always say, these podcasts are not scripted. They are just free-flowing, right? So as I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about the cassette and the DVD business. Where are they today? Anyone listening to this podcast still buys cassettes for radio? As a matter of fact, not even vehicles are being made with a cassette space anymore, right? Because those days are over. So people who would have started their business in cassettes, VCRs, DVDs. I remember, there were DVD men, in Port of Spain. I don't know if they're still there. I haven't really checked, but DVD sales and so. But then we had innovations like Netflix. Now these are international, but we had innovation, and we even have certain sites where we can stream our own movies. And so those businesses are pretty much dead, right? Even if there are one or two still offering the program, these businesses are pretty much dead. There's no growth for it anymore. And so you want to make sure that if you're thinking about having a business for long term, to be a part of your legacy, which is something I am really strong on, you need to figure out, what could be a business that lasts. Don't just look at seasonal things and what's going right now, right? In addition to that, I will think about, businesses that people need, such as food, clothing, shelter, all the basic needs of the human, right? If you are providing businesses in these areas, then you are basically going to be recession proof and pandemic proof. And of course, this pandemic talk has to be, at the forefront here in 2020, because you see what COVID-19 had done to many people, right? Many people across many businesses. As a matter of fact, big business chains had to close due to a pandemic. However, I want you to pay attention to the businesses that didn't fall, the businesses that still were able. Now, you may not have made as much as the usual market, which is fine, but you were still able to earn. And so if you really take a look at it, you see that businesses, the new buzzword was the essential services, the essential businesses. And so you saw that food, even though in Trinidad and Tobago, the restaurants had to close for a while, but internationally, the restaurants kept on with their deliveries and so on, right? So even though you shut down in-house dining, you still had delivery in other parts of the world, right? And of course, that was the case in Trinidad and Tobago at a time as well, before they did that little closure of businesses, right? Of the restaurant businesses. But you want to have a business as well that recession and these things don't impact completely, right? Because people will tell you there are a lot of people they had to go out of business. It's not a nice thing where when you are an entrepreneur and your business gets shut down for 2, 3, 4, 5 months, 6 months sometimes, according to what's going on in the world. You have no means to provide for your family. All right. Not everyone has that support of somebody to, handle the bills while your business isn't running. And so I will also look at the fact that that in business creation. Would I still be able to earn a living? And so I would have highlighted before, in the transport industry, I have a business that deals in transportation. And while it was affected temporarily, I still had the ability to go and render my service. All right, it didn't completely shut down, so there was still a way in which to earn income, right? All the tradespeople, right? So I'm not just talking about being self-employed. That's good too, but I'm speaking about even if you had a hardware, or you run a service whereby you have electricians go out on jobs for you. All these skilled workers were the ones who, were still able to do something, to provide their skill, their service to someone, right? So that's another consideration I will tell people to look out for. Could it withstand a recession, right? The financial services as well was something that definitely didn't go down. As a matter of fact, some financial services, they would have seen some increases, because now you have a lot of people who are shut down having to seek loans, right? You have a lot of people now looking into insurance, right? I saw countless ads, of insurance companies and other agents trying to, let you know if you can't work again, you need some sort of padding, some sort of fund to rely on, in these instances. And so the financial services, of course, they stood up. Digital business stood up because, there are people who, even though, a place is closed, is shut down, businesses are closed, the internet doesn't close. And so I will always say that, whatever you do, even if it's a local business, try to ensure that there is a means to do business online, whether it be a way to have your customers pay for your services online, or have a way that you can probably have them execute something. Again, I'm just speaking quite broad. You can fit in, you can tweak this to suit your idea and your vision, your goals. All right. So yes, so just to recap, when you're thinking about what business to bring, think about what the people in your space, your target audience, will support, what they like. Consider how you can be different in that particular thing, especially if it's not something new. I will consider if it can stand the test of time in terms of if a recession hits, or if there's a situation like this with a pandemic on our hands. Could you survive? Would you still be able to earn an income, right? And finally, I will think about, if it's not something common, I will think about, if I don't want to be common with anything that is already existing, I will think about, what could I pioneer that can be enjoyed in the future, right? Or what could I pioneer in my space that it may be existing somewhere else, but it's not here. And then I also know that the audience that I'm hoping to attract will like it, right? And so, let me give you an example of something like this. I don't really want to be calling brands, but I will just highlight the industry. So I was one who pioneered ride sharing, right? Ride sharing from Uber. I will mention Uber, right? When Uber decided they wanted to come to Trinidad and Tobago, well, before they decided, I was having a conversation with my cousin, and I was telling him that I wish I could be doing that Uber, what he was doing. He's from Virginia. I was studying that I could do this too. This would make so much money. I watched so many videos after he told me about this ride sharing and how you can just turn on a button and provide your service with your vehicle, to people. And I was like, I wish this could come. And lo and behold, some months passed, and then he messaged me one day and he was like, "Cuz, I have some good news for you." Right? Now, mind you, I had already signed up on his link because Uber had that thing where you could refer other drivers as well, right? As well as you could have referred passengers. And so I signed up on his link long time, even though the company wasn't available in Trinidad and Tobago. And then when he said they were coming, I was just able to now go back into what I had already signed up and send in my documents and so on. And it just so happened that the first day that I jumped out, the day that they started, January the 16th. January the 16th. I'm mixing up the years now if it was 2017 or 2018. But when they came out, I actually transported a local news reporter from Newsday, and she wrote up an article and took a picture, and that was there, right? I still have that picture on my phone. And the article was titled "Uber Drives into TNT." So I was, thinking to pioneer. I pioneered ride sharing, as in, was there from day one, until they left, right? And then they left, and we had a group of the drivers, deciding to come up with a local version of that service, and so that would fall into pioneering something that exists elsewhere. Although it came here, it left, so it still exists in the wider world, but it gained traction while it was here. And so we knew for a fact, you didn't have to do any more Q&A or research with people locally on the ground to find out. Uber came in. Uber proved, because a lot of drivers, we found success in doing that service. And we knew that it is something that the locals will appreciate and support. And so the group of people who came together to do the first, not the first, it wasn't the first, but the local ride sharing that captured the largest market share, they are that example of pioneering a business, that people will enjoy. A business that also falls within the needs, because you need to travel, right? And there are a lot of people, right here in Trinidad and Tobago, and probably wherever you are, there are certain people that just will not travel. They will not take public transportation, to be specific, right? No taxi, no maxi, no bus, nothing, right? The most public thing they may go on is a plane, right? That's how some people are. And so rideshare provides that comfort of being able to just ride. You can just call up your taxi, and you alone are in the vehicle unless you invite somebody else to join you in the ride, right? So that was something, that business, as you can see. If I was to think about it, if the group that came together, I could easily assume that they went through this thought process, in terms of bringing something out there. Of course, to do something like this, you would have had to have an entrepreneurial mind. Even if you are a silent partner in such a business, you have to have a business mind. And so you might have sat down and say, okay, now that Uber is gone, what can we do? Well, the market clearly likes ride sharing. They supported it, right? And it's something in the need. It's a need. And even though there's a pandemic, people were still using rideshare. We have local radio station hosts that, utilize rideshare. Some of them don't have cars, and they will tell you that in their programs. They don't have cars, so they utilize rideshare. So it was a needs business, right? So the audience, point one, the audience accepted and would support it. It's different because it's something new, right? So you could skip that step. It can't stand up against a recession or the pandemic, because again, it functioned through this. And then, it is that business that wasn't existing here. but it would still be liked. And so those are the major, the basic things that I would think about. I will always, let people know, if I speak with people about what business they can start, I will always guide them, from a newbie, amateur. I will let you know here what you can find something that exists that makes sense, that brings value to people, that people will support, but just find your own little style with it. And believe it or not, as simple as, okay, let me make an example of air condition installations. There are some people, you do the same thing, right? Person A and person B might be offering air condition installation as a business. And person A just might be a little rough around the edges. So they may put up and install the AC successfully, but then at the end of the service, there's a lot of rubble around, something isn't looking neat, the how they drill the hole, they didn't fill it back, to run the pipes or the whatever through the holes, for the AC. I'm no AC expert, but I know what it looks like, right? And so personally, it might be rough around the edges. You get what I'm saying? Or if you're into the food business, you might know how to cook. It might taste really well, but you mightn't be able to present it in the most palatable looking way, right? So that will give person B a chance in the market, right? Because if person A is rough around the edges, but they have the market share, a lot of people supporting person A because they just want to get their AC. When person B comes out with the same service, but person B is neat, they put up the things and they move the rubbish after. They fill back any little gaps. They put up, if they need to run, what they call chunking to conceal the wires and so on, they put that up neatly. And everything just looks great. The homeowner or the person living in the space don't have to do much cleanup after this person is gone, right? You differentiate yourself just by being neat. And so don't think differentiation is something that you can't achieve or is something, way over the top. You need to do heavy research to know how to differentiate. It could be little things that people appreciate, and then bit by bit you may notice that you're starting to gain traction. Because the market, as I said, once the market gravitates to what you have to offer, people will naturally market your product, word of mouth. They will naturally tell a friend, check XYZ. XYZ did this for me. And XYZ, I like how XYZ do it. Right? And you wouldn't believe I'm sure you were in conversations before where somebody was talking about somebody else doing a business, right? Somebody else who might have been making some particular dish, and they're telling you have to try that, right? So it's just about making sure you have these things down and you are basically on your way to fleshing out the other aspects of business. So I would encourage you to leave your messages, comment on this podcast, tell me what you think about, the steps I go through. That those steps once more, for if you forgot what I was saying, is to make sure your country, your space, your target audience will accept and will patronize that business. It's something that is acceptable, right? If it's something common, make sure that it's something that people need, that will fit the needs of the human, right? Ensuring that it can stand up against a pandemic, a recession, right? If you're pioneering, ensuring that it's something that probably exists. You can do research and see that it will be acceptable here, right? Those are some of the things that, I will consider, and I want to know what you think about that. Anything else that I missed, I may have missed something. Again, as I said, it's not scripted. It's just off the air, just to help somebody. I am into coming down to the very basic level, right? Having basic conversation. My podcast is like a basic conversation with you to help my fellow Caribbean millennials to get involved in entrepreneurship, start their businesses, right? Develop their brands and create new income streams. So, I would like to hear from you what you thought about the podcast. Anything else? What do you consider if you have a business? What did you sit down and consider before you brought your business to market, right? And I will greatly appreciate that. If you're listening on Anchor, you can send in, voice messages, which I can, if I choose, I can add it onto this podcast as well, so that other listeners in the future can hear, some of the messages that would have come true. And so I encourage you to spill some knowledge back at me. I don't want it to just be a one-way street. So thank you for listening to this podcast. I'll see you in the next one. We'll have one every week on Mondays. Take care.